Welcome to Biohacking for the Executive Athlete, where high performance meets deep recovery and ambition is powered by coherence. I'm your host, Nicole Ward, Senior Vice President of Sales at Aon, board-certified health and nutrition coach, wellness geek, biohacker, and founder of the Sales Athlete platform. Each week, I get to sit down with industry leaders, elite performers, and trailblazing biohackers to uncover the science, strategies, and daily practices that fuel sustained success at the top. It's not just about pushing harder, it's about recovering smarter, thinking sharper, and performing better. Our energy is our edge, and this is your playbook for high performance from the inside out. In our sales locker room today, I am very lucky to be able to say that we have the Chief Business Development Officer, fellow wellness geek, thank you, and Senior Sales Executive, Angel Morgan. I am so lucky that I've had the privilege of knowing Angel, working with Angel, and seeing her career literally catapult over the last decade. Angel is not only an inspiring, solutions-focused sales leader with a people-first mindset, but she believes anything is possible. And I've seen this in action. Over 20 years of experience innovating and driving revenue within professional services and public accounting, she's done it all. So, a veteran in the sales industry, she is currently, as I said, the Chief Business Development Officer at Cherry Bekaert. She balances health and well-being with performance, and that as it's been a cornerstone and a key to her sustainable success. As a self-proclaimed biohacker, Angel's commitment to functioning at the highest level requires her health journey to be more than just a hobby. It's her way of life. Professionally, Angel's focused on reimagining and executing enhancements to drive growth in very competitive sales environments. Celebrated for building scalable, best-in-class teams, Angel is a champion of the human experience. She's passionate about aligning personal core values to organizational objectives. Giving voice to the employee journey is foundational and non-negotiable for her. Chosen as a launch leader throughout most of her career, she has a proven track record of systematically tackling complex, deep-seated challenges, uncovering possibilities, and reframing thinking to achieve the most favorable outcome. From ramping up new market solutions to turning around underperforming regions, her achievements are propelled by her ability to build genuine connections with people at all levels and motivate teams to reach consistently higher levels of success. Personally, Angel takes her belief that life is an adventure by spending as much time as possible hiking and exploring new trails. As a recent pickleball convert, she exercises her competitive spirit by getting regularly beat by people twice her age and half the fitness level. I love that. Angel, just thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for being my first inaugural interview for the Sales Athlete podcast.
I'm so grateful. And as you were saying that, it reminded me that you were a trail buddy of mine. Do you remember that? Where were we? Vegas, maybe?
Phoenix? Camelback Mountain.
Phoenix?
Yes.
I
remember that.
That's it. So as you were saying that, I'm like, hey, you've been on that trail with me before. So
we have.
Welcome myself. Glad to be here. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, let's get into it. Yeah, I'd love to unpack a little bit about your sort of personal journey and career path. How has it been to get where you are?
Well, I think you and I've kind of talked about this, that, from a young age, I was always kind of intrigued by this idea of self-sufficiency, that I had the capacity, within myself to pull various levers to make more income or less, that I could control how much money I did or didn't make. And so I kind of always was looking for ways to actually have income that I could do that I could make those decisions. And so that led me obviously into a career path of sales. And if you've ever been in sales before, anyone else that will be on this show with you, in the future, they'll know that, one time you sell one thing, then you go on and you sell something else, and you sell something. You never always sell the first thing you did. So I was giggling with my husband the other day thinking I've sold everything from jewelry to blue jeans to houses. And then where you and I met, right, in public accounting, which I've had the pleasure of doing that for years. And gosh, over the last 5 years, I've really kind of landed more in this leadership role and kind of figuring out and learning my leadership swagger. Who am I going to be as a leader? So that's where I'm at now, learning new things about myself during this time.
So tell me a little bit about what role health plays currently in your professional life.
Yeah, sure. So, I am a person of faith, and sort of in that same line of thinking, I have this deep belief system that I'm a vessel. My body is a vessel. It is something that is used to, call others to their higher and best selves, as well as my own self. And if my vessel is broken, right, or not operating well, then my whole self cannot show up for, the people that is around me and the ones I'm trying to influence and impact. And then, ultimately it's a mission, as we talked about in the intro. It is a mission for me to really, really strive to bring my whole and best self to everyone. And gosh, Nicole, it's an investment. So it's not a part-time job or a hobby. It's an investment. It costs a lot of money to keep your vessel whole, right? And keep everything operating from head to toe, mentally, physically, spiritually, all that entails. And so thankfully I have the ability to be able to do that, understanding that not many do, but ultimately really too starts with mindset. I had to get to a place where I truly believed that what I was ingesting, what I was putting on my skin, what I was doing to prepare my mind or not, was impacting my performance. And if there's plenty of people in my world who don't believe that, they don't believe that anything they put in their mouth, anything they eat, anything they consume really is separate from their output as an employee or as a leader. And I think you have to get there first. And I'm there. And so that's mostly been my journey is with mindset and really kind of keeping my whole self together to be the best that I can be.
And when in your career did you first realize that performance wasn't just about effort, but it was also about right energy, right mindfulness with the body, and recovery? What was that pivot like for you? When did you lean in and sort of learn about it?
I wish so bad that I could say I was this evolved, person seeking longevity, holistic person, from the beginning. But the reality is things started breaking down. I got old and life started to show itself. So, I began to have unusual anxiety. I began to have really bad sleep. I began to not have any strength. I was struggling to find words. I was bloated. So many things started to happen. And I have this, this drive to not settle, and I don't hear no. And that kind of carries over into this, how am I handle my vessel thing. So I really just wanted to, set out on a journey to solve each one of the things that started to break. And it's through that journey of researching and looking at why I was feeling this way and trying to, unpack it and go to the layers that I became more evolved, if that's the word we're going to use, right? I went further in my journey. So it was a slow drip of just natural aging process of things not working that kind of caused me to go off and start all the research and learn one thing about the other. And again, I had the mindset, right, that I could be wrong. I was willing to be wrong. I was willing to learn new things. I was willing to test. So that's the other part, Nicole, is that I don't make any changes or look at certain parts of if something is broken and not follow the regimen that I'm studying. I am my own experiment, and I do what I say I'm going to do, and I have discipline and I stick to it. And it's because I need the data. So if I am going to try new sleep patterns, right? I'm going to go to bed earlier. I'm going to wear blue blockers. I'm going to, maybe take some sleep aids, supplements holistically, or, read at night, or whatever the things are. I've got to do it because I won't have the data to prove whether or not it's true or it's not. So I have a commitment to, when I am using my own body as an experiment, to test the data and stick to whatever it is I'm trying so that I can know whether it really works or not for me.
Super insightful. And are there particular biohacks or habits that have made the biggest difference in your performance?
Yeah, anyone that knows me knows that I'm wicked ADHD, like off the chart. And I've actually been on my own journey to find out, even, is that a real thing, right? Is it environmental? Is it other stimulus, other thing that causes that? That's a whole nother podcast. But for the moment, right, let's say I'm really off the charts that way. And I discovered that sleep, for me, was one of my major things that I needed to get control of. With my ADHD, on a good day, I struggle with self-control and discipline. So if I'm not sleeping, then I am inappropriately interrupting. I am over speaking over folks. I have no discipline when it comes to any type of food, so I'm eating the quickest, fastest thing near me. And so sleep for me has been a really huge part of me making some good changes. Basically, I'm an ass if I don't get 8 hours worth of sleep. But the other thing is I don't set an alarm. My body has adjusted to knowing how to wake up naturally, and that has been such a wonderful way for me to wake up. I do set one if I have an early flight or some bizarre thing like that I have to go to, but I don't set any alarms. I really work on morning grounding, and not to get all, woo-woo on everybody, but I do try to go outside first thing, try to have set intentions, do meditation through the day, hopefully take my dog for a walk in the morning, but be in nature. One thing I learned from you is doing a sun bath in the, as soon as the sun is up, and getting a little bit of vitamin D, just stepping outside for that. Practicing gratefulness has been really changing for me, just to sort of lower my anxieties and help me think about how I'm going to show up for other people and really celebrate other people in that regard. And I've also kind of jumped on the macro train. I've been on that for about 5 years. So I am physically counting everything I put in my mouth, which is going to sound exhausting to some people. But listen, there are people who have diabetes, as an example, and they have to physically look at what they put in their bodies to make sure their body stays balanced. And this is no different for me in terms of understanding, prioritizing protein, and really trying to limit my carb intake. I have insulin resistance that I found out through this journey of things breaking down, and the carb crashing, that the afternoon things that I would deal with, right, has been able to plateau as a result of that. I don't drink hardly ever anymore. I'm fine with others that do. We have a full bar cart downstairs, but for me, I saw the differences in actually sugar. I'd shake. I'd physically shake, and couldn't sleep well when I was doing that, and then lifting weights. So I've been lifting weights and really trying to spend time doing that. In my 20s, I was a CNC girl, right? It was calories and cardio. And I come from a really thick family tree. God love us all, right? And I wanted to be skinny, and that's what I wanted to be in my 20s. And now I'm really understanding inflammation in a different way, and different ways that I, can kind of keep myself healthy and help the things that are broken that I talked about before through just some of those types of changes.
Super examples. I want to ask you also, just continue to pull on that thread a little bit, what tech, wearable tech you use, and then supplementation. Can you speak a little bit to those?
Yeah. So, common, the watch, right? I do have my watch. So I'm doing the 10,000 steps a day. And honestly, I've done a ton of research that, and being, again, my own experiment, I have physically seen that as I have leveled out and done less intensity in the work that I'm doing, the exercises that I'm doing. It's really helped my endocrine system overall, all of my adrenals, all of that kind of stuff. So walking and using my watch has really helped me a lot for just sort of managing my step count. I have a standing desk. We're sitting a lot these days, especially in the job I have when I have people across, nationally. So I have a standing desk. I actually also just got off of Amazon, $125. I got a walking desk pad, and that was just so that I could continue to keep moving. I do use that sparingly. I don't use it on all calls, right? But on some, I do try to schedule a lot of my calls to while I'm walking, right? So I make sure people know in advance. I invite them to walk with me while we're talking about work. So I'm trying to weave that in intentionally. And I will tell you the biggest one probably is the HRT with hormone replacement therapy. I'm 55 and I am a big labs girl. So I do nothing at all without labs. Again, back to financial blessings and being able to do this. I completely understand that this is a privilege to be able to do this and to check my labs. But I have made mistakes of taking vitamins and supplements and different things and it not meeting the labs and having negative effects on there. So I absolutely take all 3 hormones, love them. It took me a while to figure out which ones, but I've been doing it for 5 years and seen amazing, transformative, impacts on my life as a result of that. Big taker of magnesium in the evenings. I love that. Collagen every day. Athletic Greens, fiber. No one wants to talk about their poo, but I'm a big having a good poo fan, and so
Go
as
fiber.
long as my poos are good, yeah, and that's a sign of health, right? And so
Absolutely.
So
love it.
so those are the fun, and then I think too, as I've developed this. I'm just trying to give ideas here. I've developed this health squad of sorts. So back to not settling, back to believing that I can kind of fix anything or there's some solution. I've got a chiropractor. I have a neuromuscular release guy. I have a physical therapy PT person. I've got an acupuncturist and a dry needler and, stretch zoner and our entire house. I invite you to come to the house. Our entire house is a physical therapy. I have an inversion table, a TENS machine. Like it's really such an important part of getting to a yes and feeling great, in mentally, spiritually, and physically that I kind of strive for and really make it again a mission to solve for.
I get it. It's amazing. Our houses sound like if we combine them, we might actualize what Ben Greenfield just built for himself, right?
Yeah,
I know we could open up a studio. I love it. I love that. And so I know travel is a big part for both of us as sales executives, and I'd love to understand, what's non-negotiable when you're traveling for work, or like what do you do to stay grounded? When you're really busy on the road and how do you combat just the time zone changes, et cetera, all that relates to travel and the sales executive sort of mindset. Any insight there?
Yeah, no, this is a great question and perfect timing, right? This almost didn't happen today because of 9 delays in a row, and I had, hotel overnight and had to be up on one today that was delayed. So, perfect timing for the question. I call it the 3 S's. I don't go anywhere without the 3 S's, which is, my sleep, supplements, and sneakers. So when I travel, I'm packing. I'm always packing my supplements. I always take workout gear so that I can make sure that I move my body. It's something that's really easy to avoid, and I don't. And then any sleep that I need, I make sure I have all the stuff that I need for good sleep. And so when I'm traveling, I go to bed. I'm still in bed by 9. I do not change my body clock. So I know a lot of my sales reps, will stay up a little late because they haven't seen each other in a while. They might, drink 2 or 3 extra drinks at the bar. I just choose not to. I'm made fun of regularly, that I'm a granny, because I'm going to bed early. But I have clarity, that next morning, and I feel good about that, and so I always get up. I'm always up earlier than everybody else, and I'm down in the gym, and I really think about ways that I can get protein. I carry that with me when I am on the road. Electrolytes. So, as I'm coming home, electrolytes and a lot of sleep. And this is going to sound really weird, really, really weird. But also when I come back, I'm out in nature, I will actually do manual labor. Like after I have been traveling for a while, I go and I want to build things or cut things down or even do work in the yard, or it's like I need to get back into the earth or be outside, or
Grounded.
Something about being in conference rooms and stuff. It's kooky, but it's something that I do as part of my mental reset. But listen, to be fair, I do want to be fair, because anybody that, my husband or anybody that would be traveling with me, last night was hard. I was tired. It was 11 p.m. and I had no discipline because I was exhausted. I already told you that. And I downed a bag of peanut M&Ms. So it's 80% doing the right things, but I have failure too, but I just was so tired and I just wanted some peanut M&Ms. And so I'm not perfect.
No,
So-
it's not about not about perfection, right? It's about the journey, and there are times, I think, for all of us where we just have to give ourselves grace, right? And we have to give ourselves a little bit of a little bit of grace, right? There's so many great takeaways there. I love what you said about getting grounded after being out and about, but really connecting with the physicality of your environment and getting that stability underneath you again. I love that. Tell me about success and what success feels like, to you now versus maybe when you were earlier in your career.
I think when I was younger, now I used to look at it day by day, right? Really almost second by second, right? I was right now, in the moment, did I hit my numbers and did I go to the gym? And it was about myself, right? In that moment today, selfishness, right? About this second and what I did. And, as time has passed, I really look at my success now in a week, because listen, there are unexpected work things that come up and you don't get that walk in, you don't feel great, you don't get your cycle in, or your weights, or whatever your thing is, or you don't get it done. I don't let one day become 5 days, so it's like I don't go, oh, I didn't do it that one day, so now I'm just, oh, well, I didn't do it that one day, and now it's 2 days, and now it's 3 days. So I really look at my week. So if you look at a week, you can give yourself back to grace. You can give yourself a little bit more grace during that time, because it's 7 days you're looking at, not one. Because if you fail one day, it's easy to fail 2 days to fail 3. But in a week, if I have one day, I'm like, oh, I still have 6 more, right, to make it up. So I'm kind of now think about things more from a weekly perspective. And I also now think about it more about mindset first. So I think about if my mind is right, if I know who I am, if I set my intention, have some meditation, some time with God for me, right, in the morning, and really am thoughtful about how I start my day, I somehow find the other things kind of come into play. So I'm a big calendar blocker, right? I try to remove stress, where before I just would live in it and I'd barrel through it. And so now I'm like, okay, every day I kind of have a moment before I go to bed and start my next day. I actually do this every Sunday when I look at my week and say, okay, what are the things I need to do to remove stress in my week this week, right? And if I see that I have 12 back-to-back meetings, I will look and see, can any of those urgent? Can I move any of them a day? Can I move? Because I know I'm going to need a little bit of space in there, especially if any of them need my mental, need my, focus or attention. The ones that are in the afternoon, I know I kind of get a little, groggy, or my brain doesn't work as well after 3 p.m. I just know that. So I make sure any real important things are moved to the top, of my day. But I will look at also, what do I need to plan today to make sure that I don't have stress in terms of my food. So I pre-plan my food. I will do that on Sunday. So I kind of know what I'm going to eat, during the week, in advance. So I don't have to cause that anxiety to kind of work around that. I try to remove chaos. I plan my exercise. I plan time with my family. It's on our calendars with my kids that are not living in my home anymore, but those things are planned. And when I get most of those things planned, it gives me space to be creative, to respond to something that comes up that I didn't think was going to come up. Again, back to call walks and walking. And so try to just, again, think more holistically about removing stress, how I make others feel, practicing gratefulness, how can I serve others, today, this week, which are things I didn't do, before, kind of in my younger ways.
Yeah, I think that you and I both have the planning gene for sure. And I think that peace that we get when I'm beginning with the end in mind. How do I want to finish when my head hits the pillow on Friday?
Yeah.
What have I lived into that gives me that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and peace, right? Like, what have I done? And I sort of beginning with that end in mind, like, and framing up, to your point, and giving ourselves that space, framing things up and thinking holistically about what we're trying to accomplish does give the space, like you say, for other things and flexing. And I think it's the ability to think about that and to visualize that out and then almost work backwards, I think it's a skill, right? Speaking of which, when you think about your team and, your all of the perspective and wonderful sort of insights and hacks that you've been sharing, how do you instill this in your teams? I know you say you were made fun of. I am as well. I'm called the Mushroom Queen because I give my team, mushroom powders. And they're like, what's in this? I'm like, it's fine. But I'd love to hear, other than the chuckles that you get, do you find that you've been able to impart some of this sort of mindfulness and some of the biohacking with your team members?
The longer I've known, you've just been a great sense of inspiration for me with that. I know that you had given your team the rings. That was the aura rings. Is that what they're called? I'm trying to remember. Yeah. At one point. Yeah. And so, it's you really inspired me. I think about so many other things that I was like, gosh, do we really talk about our health? And maybe I am more inward than I thought that I was, but and then I realized again, that I do believe all of it starts with the mindset. Everything starts with how you see and view life and how you see and view where you spend your energy and your time and what you put in your mouth, right? And so we have our weekly calls with my sales team are 80% whole self oriented, in terms of looking at their pipeline, looking at all their activities. We always start with who you are and how you're doing and what things you're struggling with. And again, what big rocks need to get moved out of the way so that you can focus on that performance. What are the things that are weighing you down? We do regular goal setting as a team that include mind, body, and spirit. It includes personal. It includes professional. It includes your finances, your health goals, and we share them as a team as people feel comfortable. Oddly enough, they all feel very comfortable, so we kind of know what each other's working on from a health perspective. Some people, it's like, I just need to unplug once a quarter because the stress, of this job can be difficult, and they share that they have an unplug goal. And we celebrate those. We celebrate prioritizing your family and taking vacation and sharing those vacation, pictures. We certainly share when we have an athletic event or something that we're, coming up that we're trying to participate in, if it's an athletic thing, we talk about taking Fridays off and turning the camera off and having no meetings on Fridays so that we can kind of focus on getting our work done and go into the weekend to be whole of our families and to be able to show up refueled and energized, the week before. We actually talk about behaviors during events like drinking or not drinking and how we're showing up, to make those, just as beneficial to the firm and to ourselves, as it can be. And so I think that I have some room to grow there in terms of the mushroom powders I got from you too. So I have that, that I have as well. But I probably have some space there talking a little bit more. Now, in our one-on-ones, certainly there are people that are raising small families. There are people that are talking about their hormone replacement therapy. I know a lot about that, about the ladies on my team. And so I do feel like it's probably happening, but probably could happen more. So I'll have that as a to-do to go back and think about some creative ways that I can implement.
It's actually, it's a great segue to, I was going to go a little off script with this question, but it leads right into it, which is, what's your next area of impact? What's Angel Morgan's next hill to climb as it relates to health and wellness?
Yeah, I shared earlier that I haven't been a person thinking so much about longevity as much as immediate, how do I feel, but not, ultimately we do have an expiration date. Our joints have probably scientifically X amount of times that joint can bend before it poops out, right? It gives out on us. And so what are the things I can do towards longevity for my brain, for my mental acuity. And I think spending some more time kind of thinking about mentally about brain function. I think I need to lean into that more. I'm very curious about toxicities of different foods that I'm eating. I've been spending a lot of time looking at the sugar accounts, and now there are all these fun apps that people are sharing with me about, this particular go-to item that you've been going to has X amount of toxins in it. And I'm like, what? And so now I feel like I need to probably be looking at some toxicity things. And I've toyed with inflammation, and I do believe that I've got a lot more learning to do there, because I do feel like every time I read about one inflammation, I read about 17 others. I'm like, well, is everything giving you inflammation? And how do you know? And so I do think that those are probably 3 areas for me that I want to spend some more time in. And certainly welcome, love to hear, Nicole, from you, if that's appropriate to ask, what are the things that you're looking at, and even who are the go-to people that you're going to right now for, I think we've talked about before, for quick health wellness. Is it Everlywell or Hyman, or I'd love to hear from you the people you're looking at. Yeah.
No, I'm a lab girl like you are as well. But, the 2 things that I would share, one that directly, it both touch on what you just shared. So when it comes to heavy metal, mold, and parasite detoxing, I have hacked my education on that and gotten to a really smart level. And then the second thing is a company called, and a shout out to this company, zero affiliation with them other than I'm just absolutely applauding their efforts. It's called Supco. Actually, Dr. Mark Hyman is a partner with that company. So if it's an app on your phone,
that somewhere.
And what it does is, Supco, SUPPCO, and basically you take you scan all of the supplements you're taking, and it creates your stack, and it organizes it for you by, is it cognitive, is it cardiovascular, et cetera. Then it also tells you, based on the actual brand you're buying, the level of cleanliness when it comes to their supply chain as it relates to toxins. So you're actually, before you go buy Nature Made, sorry Nature Made, but you suck, before you buy their magnesium, it will tell you why it rates so low, because it's got loads of heavy metals in it, or fill in the blank, right? So I'm picking on Nature Made as an example, but versus if you were to scan Pure Encapsulations magnesium, it would get like a 9 out of 10 stars, right? So it really tells you.
I'm a big Pure girl too. Yeah.
Yeah, me too, because it all leads to the second point and what you were, good to point out, which is it is all about toxic load, right? I think more and more of the data that we're seeing and the science we're seeing as it relates to Alzheimer's, cancer, all the four horsemen, as Peter Attia would say, of the bad guys out there, it all comes down to toxic load. And we're born, all of us, with a bucket of capacity in terms of toxic load. Some of us just have a bigger bucket than others, but we all need to be drilling a hole every single day into the bottom of that bucket to drain it. And when we're doing all the things that we do, and whether it's cacao, which is loaded, chocolate is loaded with lead and cadmium, whether it's the cleaning tool or the cleaning supplies you're using in your home, whether it's the pans you're cooking with, we're all exposed to toxins on the daily. Some of us just clean them out more quickly than others. And some of us clean out heavy metals quicker than we do mold out of our bodies or parasites, right? So doing that whole fact-finding mission of what our loads are with the tests. So I applaud you, because I do think so much of those, again, the dementias, the cancers, the things that come up in our lives later down the road all come back to toxic load. So
seriously,
it's a journey.
Okay, you're going to have to hold me accountable to that. I definitely need to get on it. Are you looking at skincare, like stuff that you're putting on your body? I haven't gone into that either.
7 years ago, I purged everything I own. I mean, buy Tom Ford, YSL, Christian Dior. No matter how much you love those products, they're pure poison, and they are endocrine disruptors. They disrupt our hormones, and women wonder why they can't get pregnant, or women wonder why are my hormones out of whack? Because we lacquer ourselves in perfumes and products and powders that are pure toxic, and they're literally loaded with lead and all these metals and horrible things. So it's not hard to do. There's so many clean options. So anyway, I could get on my soapbox.
No. I asked for it. I really was wanting to know kind of what you were in that journey. So I'm writing it down. I'm excited about kind of
and men too.
Men
have the exact same exposures. When they think about whether it's shaving, whether it's anything related to hair, or all the things we put on our bodies, the things that detergents. Men are not immune from this either. It all hits them as well. So.
Yeah, what is it that they say? It's your largest cell, right? It's and then and so people who struggle to believe what they put in their mouth really impacts them. So if you were to ask me, what would you tell your young self? Like, what would you tell yourself, years ago compared to now, right? If it would be that. It would be that. Food is not for pleasure, which I used to think it was. It's for fuel. And I physically have like these little bubbles over my head when I eat something. Like, you should have seen the bubbles over my head when I was eating the peanut M&Ms. Like, I was watching it like fight and like come after my cells last night. I was like, I'm sorry. But it was but when I eat certain foods, like, I am seeing like, oh, this is repairing my cells, this is doing this is bringing these vitamins to these parts of my body, this is right. So I'm super nerdy and probably a child's cartoon in some way of how I see food now. And that, gosh, I think that's probably the most transformative thing from when I was 20 to now, in terms of what I would go back and tell myself, which is that our body is a cell, it is a vessel, it does react and respond and resist and absorb and do things with what we expose it to and what we digest or ingest or whatever, so and it's not siloed, right? Our performance isn't siloed.
It's all connected.
It's not a separate thing. We're one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we think about the parasympathetic nervous system, right, while we're eating, so with you and your it's like you're the bubble over your head beating yourself up for eating the chocolate covered M&Ms versus what then your parasympathetic nervous system's like, as opposed to like, I'm just going to eat these. I'm going to let it rip and I'm going to savor every single morsel, right? Which at least, you give yourself that grace. You're like, okay, but it's, we're all these whole holistic things, right? We're a whole bunch of it. So what else? What other things would you like to share? What other insights have you found really helpful, especially if we think about the sales context, especially as a leader, right? Of folks with such a broad reach of impact, which you clearly have. What other things might be interesting with our sales executives in the audience?
I would say, your influence probably is more far-reaching than you realize. And so, I forget that. And, as small as sending an email at night before I go to bed, in my mind, I'm like, oh, they're going to be responsible on their end and not check their emails after, 8 p.m. or, which is something I try to do as well, kind of shut off by 8 p.m. with my emails. And maybe I send this at 7:59. Well, I wake up in the next morning and they've answered it that night before because I forget. I'm like, oh yeah, they actually think I'm sitting and waiting for this, right, as their boss. And we forget that influence. And I do think that carries over in kind of how we show up mentally, how we encourage others with our words, how we support managing stress, how we support health and well-being, and what they're doing to take care of themselves first. And so that would be my encouragement. And, I'm thinking about, I've just been doing the manager part for 5 years, and my team makes their goals or greatly surpasses them every year. And I strongly believe it is because they are working in an atmosphere of, if they say time out, I'm like, okay, time out. Where are we? Let's go. What's happening? Where are we? And I really try to look at all the things that are, impacting them and what they need. And if we can get that taken care of, the rest sort of follows suit. We share a ton of, there's a lot of people on my team that have spiritual, have faith. And so they will share a lot about something that inspires them or something that helped them think about a conflict that they were having, how they, were reframing what they were thinking about. We have to do a lot of reframing in our jobs, Nicole, as you know.
We do.
When things are happening, it's like, we have to be the reframers, and that takes energy and effort and intention and patience, and so it's a lot of that reframing too, and helping them reframe their current situation, and loving on them when maybe my first reaction is to be like, let's keep going, or whatever. But I do have to stop and do that. So I think just remembering that we have influence in many ways. And, look, honestly, in our profession, you and I have come from the accounting and consulting. It's an unhealthy profession a lot. And so it's, what do we do about that? How do we what is our role there? Do we have a role there? I think this podcast, your book and stuff, it's phenomenal. Not everyone's selling, but certainly people that are in our, previous profession around accounting and consulting, they have to go out to market, and, how are they showing up? How do they feel? Are they able to make their words clear? Can they remember? Are they managing their stress? I feel like once a week, someone I know and love is dropping dead of a heart attack. Like, it's rampant right now. And maybe it always has been, and we just didn't have social media or whatever, but really enjoying my time and realizing that time is not a renewable resource. And so how do we spend it each hour? For me, right, would be, again, how do I use my vessel, right, to be my highest and best use, and how do I get that from others, and how do I impart that to others, and how do we do that kind of each hour? But
I agree with you, and that's the point, as you were kind to call out, of the book and the podcast, which is really just illuminating that when we optimize our health and well-being, we perform. It's transformative, right? Not only for our work from a cognitive, response, all of, function better, but also for our families, for ourselves. And, I believe that, sales, and I've said this before in different things that I've written, but sales is one of the highest forms of service because it is about putting someone else first and being there for them. And to use your word, if we're vessels for that facilitation, then being our best creates the highest form of service, right? And us showing up at our best. So no, I completely agree with you. And I think what you said about the impact that we have, sometimes we're not aware of it, and recognizing that, I think is so important. And that mindfulness that you have obviously has translated because you've created the team that you have, which sounds amazing. What would you say to other leaders that might not be as savvy as you in terms of biohacking or health and wellness?
Sure.
Is there something that you would advise either other sales leaders to do as a baby step or a first few steps, or either sales executives that are listening? What if you're new coming into this and you're not where Angel is, but you want to get where Angel's going or is, what advice would you give to them?
You know what? That's actually a great question. And I think it would start with a curiosity, being open to what you believe as being wrong, or that you have more to learn about a subject. How about that, right? That being willing to say, maybe, just maybe. I mean, so let's do it this way. If you do nothing, if you change nothing, where will you end up, right? Versus, and pretend you're absolutely, I'm wrong. Everything that you and I've said today, we are completely wrong. What do you have to lose, really, to try that next one little thing, right? And so you have really nothing to lose. Maybe a few bucks. Maybe some of the things don't cost anything, right? The walking, the this, that, whatever the things are, don't cost anything. But if we're right, and the one little thing makes an impact, I mean, how amazing would that be, right? So I think it's being willing to learn something new, being willing to say that you haven't learned it all, and what would that be, which involves slowing down. Slow down. One of my bosses years ago said to me, you have to slow down to speed up. And I don't know that I remembered that. I was like, oh, what does that mean? And it is absolutely true that with the thousands of emails that we get a day, and we can barely absorb all the information that's coming, right? It's so easy just to keep going. It's easy to not stop and listen to a podcast. It's easy to not go, read a book on a particular subject. I schedule time to sit on my couch. I have a certain couch in the corner to just research. I have a list of little things I want to research, and sometimes it's up to 3 hours on a Saturday. It is my time to just not react, respond to a work item, but let myself discover and learn and go down a path. And so maybe we share a couple of these. Dr. Mark Hyman, Hyman, right? Huberman Labs, right? Huberman.
Yep. Andrew
Labs.
Huberman. Yeah.
Dr. Peter Attia, Attia,
Love Attia.
maybe?
Yep, Attia.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yes. And just start listening to some of the podcasts and start thinking, hey, is there one little thing that I could do? Start with sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep there, I mean, I wish I had a t-shirt that I would have worn that today, is to start with sleeping better.
Just put Z's all the way across it. I love that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Let's start that trend.
I'm going to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Very cool.
Yeah, I would say that for sure.
Such
Just
good
those
insights.
one little things.
Well, no, and I love your call out there to some of the folks that I know you and I both listen to. I would add Rhonda Patrick, RHONDA Patrick, PATRICK. She's amazing. There's so many good ones. Like you say, when you get curious, all you have to do is go to YouTube and type in sleep biohacking or something like that, and it'll be overwhelming, I think, in terms of the information. Probably the opposite, right? Where so much information, how do we cut through it, right? But no, I think those are great suggestions. I'm just so grateful to have you here and to have your insights. And I know that you're on LinkedIn, and I know you do some amazing posts on LinkedIn. But if people wanted to kind of follow you and your shenanigans as a sales executive and leader, but also as a wellness geek and a fellow wellness geek and biohacker, is there any place else to find you, or is LinkedIn the best place? Angel Morgan, Cherry Bekaert.
I've got my socials buttoned up, right? So my socials are buttoned up for my family and friends only. That's one of my also personal things. Gotcha. Is just to kind of keep my world small around that. But sure. LinkedIn, I would love it. I would love to connect with folks on LinkedIn and learn. I want to learn from this community of what other people are doing. So I'm so excited to look forward to hearing, some of your future guests, so I can hear from them and what they're learning and doing and finding new ways. I'm so dialed into the toxic thing now, the toxicities. I'm going to go look that up, and so excited about that.
Love
so
it.
Thanks for sharing that information with me.
Good. Absolutely. Well, it's just a pleasure to have you, and thanks for making the time, especially considering all of your travel crazy, and just keep being the light that you are and the amazing leader that you are, because we certainly need more of Angel Morgans in the world. So it's awesome to hear what you're doing with your team.
Yes.
I love you too, sweetie. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for tuning in to Biohacking for the Sales Athlete podcast. If today's episode helped you rethink performance, recovery, or your approach to selling, share it with a teammate or with a leader. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review if you're feeling it. It helps more sales athletes hopefully find the tools that they need to thrive. And until the next time, keep your mind sharp, your body fueled, and your performance optimized. You can find my Biohacking for the Sales Athlete newsletter on LinkedIn, Substack, and more of my content on my website at NicoleElizabethWard.com. Thank you so much.